Welcome back, everybody. So we were at opening night of Howl-O-Scream at Busch Gardens in Tampa, and I wanted to take you along and kind of show you how that evening went. One thing to note is that Busch Gardens is an extremely large park, and there will be a lot of walking. So we started off our night at Stranglewood Estate. That's one of the new haunted houses this year. Now be warned that the camera video here is a little bit grainy because this is an extremely dark haunted house. It was very hard to see anything even walking through, so the camera barely picked up anything. I'm not taking you through the full walkthrough of the haunted house. We're just going to kind of hit some of the highlights. That is some of the things that we could actually see. But this is one of the better haunted houses, I think, at Busch Gardens. The story is pretty cohesive. We're obviously walking through a haunted house. You go through the kitchen, there's the laundry room, the bedrooms, I think. I remember a conservatory. I only got to go through it once, so it's kind of hard to remember all of the ins and outs. This house did have a lot of quirks. I don't know if you just noticed that stocks there. I can't remember why. I remember walking past that thinking, that's a little odd. And then here in the attic, I loved this effect. They had these sort of sheeted ghosts sprinkled throughout the attraction, and you are really wondering, is there an actual person under there, or if it's just filler. Some of the weird other things that I was talking about is this is one of the areas where they make you crawl through a tunnel. I guess you're not really on your hands and knees, but if you're tall like me, I had to really stoop down to get through it. But we did. We managed to survive. I really liked this haunted house. Now, one thing to note is that we were day guests in the park, which closed at 6 p.m., and then you just kind of sat around until Howl-O-Scream started at 7. So we were in line for that Stranglewood Estate around 6:20, I think, and then they were saying there will be a slight delay. We actually they didn't start letting people in the haunted house until 7:30, so we were already behind schedule. It was a little bit rainy, a little bit muggy, and we were getting a little irritated, and we had a bit of a late start then, but we made it here to our first scare zone after the haunted house, and this is Beyond the Veil. It's listed as, among the Nairobi path lies the depths of a dark forest. Beware of the fairies and the orcs as you stroll through this organic forest. I'm always a fan of the black light neon effects, so I love that. I thought the costumes and the characters were pretty good. They worked very well in the zone. I wouldn't say it was very scary, though. I could see how if you had demented fairies that it might be. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next scare zone as we're making our way up to the next haunted house. We're passing through Voodoo. Driven out of the bayou by ravenous werewolves, the witch doctors now practice their dark magic on you as they pursue their twisted revenge through ancient curses. Now I can see here as well that they're trying to incorporate the werewolf theme. We'll see that actually in many of the zones and haunted houses this year. But just because they list that in the description doesn't mean it actually appears. I don't really recall seeing anything werewolf-like. Whoever wrote that is actually probably confusing it with the voodoo-themed haunted house that we'll see a little bit later as well. But that was one of my favorites. Alright, the scare actors here are putting in some effort. I wouldn't say it was a great effort. This centerpiece here we saw last year as well in their voodoo area. This is a returning zone, I believe. However, it's not in the same place. Things are done a little bit differently. So that's nice that it's not an exact carbon copy of what they did in prior years. And we're heading into the next scare zone. This one I think is my favorite. It's the shortcut. Again, this was one they had last year and I think the year before as well. I think it is just a really creepy area. And it's described as cutting through the cemetery may seem like an easy way out, except when the corpses rise from the ground, only to drag you back into their graves with them. You can't go wrong with a scary cemetery theme, and I think they did a fantastic job with this. I wish I could show you more, but the lighting here is just so dim. You can't read any of the tombstones, see all the details. I wish I had been able to do a daytime walkthrough of the zone, in fact all the zones. It was just rainy throughout the day. I just didn't really have an opportunity to do it. But the details in here were just fantastic. There's another wolf, a werewolf. We'll see again, more of those later. But the lighting, like I said, is just so bad, and it's just so unfortunate because they put so much effort into creating these wonderful areas, and you just can't see them. You'll just have to take my word for it that there are cool things like a hearse that I didn't get to show you because it was in complete darkness. I do think it gets a little bit better in some of the other zones. These might have been just the darkest of the ones that we're going to see today. Before we go ahead and head on over to the next, though, let's take one more look at the cemetery and this really creepy man here who is, I don't know, maybe a reaper, not really sure, couldn't see. Anyway, the second haunted house we're going to go into is The Residence, home for the holidays. Merriment turns murderous at this suburban family home. Christmas arrives earlier than ever this year at The Residence, and all new horrors are eager to be unwrapped. Holidays are best when spent with loved ones, but there's no guarantee you'll survive this silent night. Now, honestly, I wasn't too thrilled with this haunted house. I mean, obviously you can have some creepy Christmassy themes, and I don't think it's all that clever, and I don't think it's really all that scary. The worst part about this haunted house, though, is that we had to listen to Christmas music in the queue there, and it's just, I want Halloween, I want scary, I don't want evil Christmas. It's too soon. The other thing I didn't like about this haunted house is it smelled terrible. I think they were trying to go for a pine scent or something, but honestly, just every room just reeked like mustiness. It wasn't pleasant at all. And I'm not sure what this guy's supposed to be. Is he Santa? Is he a drunk man with a Santa hat on? I was a little confused about what was going on, but honestly that might have just been because I was filming and not paying that much attention. Of course, we can't end any haunted house without having the ever-present chainsaws. Right, the next zone we're going into is Crash Test Clowns. I'm not entirely sure this is a real zone of theirs. It's not really listed on their website, but they did have a bumper car ride that sets the tone for the whole area, and it says, "Buckle up for an extra bumpy ride where the road rage from your fellow travelers includes a monstrous appetite for human brains," of course, because I guess they're zombie clowns. At least the area is well lit, and you can kind of see everything that's going on. I think they did rely a little bit too heavily on those sort of waving inflatable things. This one happens to have gotten stuck, kind of ruins the effect there, but they were all over the place. It did seem, however, that they could have used a few more scare actors in the zone. And now that I'm thinking about it too, it really could use some extra music. I mean, this is a clown sort of, I guess not really a circus theme, just a clown theme. But I would almost expect some circus music or just something to make the area a little bit more lively. Everything did seem just perhaps a little bit quiet. This guy kind of looks like John Wayne Gacy. And that brings us to the next zone, Skeleton Crew. It's our, of course, pirate-themed haunt area, and it's described as rising from their watery grave, shipwrecked pirates seek to plunder the world of the living, taking all lost souls as their bounty. I thought the effects in here were kind of cool. You can see that sort of shimmery effect there from the laser lights, kind of makes you feel like you're underwater. I thought that effect was really well done. The other things, though, in the area is they had everything like in these little rooms, like here's a treasure room. I wish more of it were just out in the open to see. Like this was outstanding. It is the Kraken, I guess. It looks like some sort of octopus creature made out of stone, so it's supposed to just look like a natural element of the environment. I would love this at my own house. I just think, again, it looks amazing. It takes up a lot of space, so it just makes the whole area feel immersive. And of course, you could see it from basically anywhere in the entire zone. Again, here's one of those rooms. This one had, I guess, a coffin. Not really sure what was going on in this one. And these were just, like I said, a little bit disappointing. Here's another angle of the Kraken, we'll call it, with the shimmering effect. I think the lighting in this zone was very, very well done. It could be, of course, a bit brighter. Let's go ahead and head on into the next haunted house, and this is the Forgotten. Not really sure why it looks like we're going into a sewer at the beginning. The description here reads, victims will be drawn into a hidden world beyond the rubble and the rocks of an unsuspecting quarry, where dark secrets lurk in the shadows. Will those who enter return to the world of the living, or are they destined to become the newest minion of the Forgotten army? Not really sure how that description really accurately reflects what we're just about to take a look at here. It's basically vampire S&M, and since my words just can't do it justice, let's just take a look and see what it's all about. Alright, I'm not going to show you the entire haunted house. I don't want to, of course, ruin the ending for you. I do think these haunted houses have a lack of a defined ending, which is a bit unfortunate, but we'll call this one quits for now and head over to Raven's Mill, which is another scare zone. And this scare zone says, within the walls of the cornfields lies a horrific nightmare you cannot awaken. The scarecrows of Raven's Mill are ready for you. I did like the ambiance of this zone. I think the scarecrows were kind of everywhere with the corn. They did a good job putting them pretty high up, so it was a little creepy having to look up at all of them. And they had those planters in your way everywhere you were walking, so you didn't really know, what's lurking behind each one. And then, of course, they have this giant windmill. I don't know if they built that specifically just for the zone, but I thought it was an amazing prop itself. And overall, you can't really go wrong with scarecrows and pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. Of course, there's the obligatory chainsaw. I don't remember if they had people revving the chainsaws in this area, but they were kind of everywhere, so it wouldn't have surprised me. This is just another one of those rooms that they have everywhere, and I can see why they do it, so that they can easily close it up for the day guests, so it's not frightening the little children that are heading to the nearby Sesame Street land or whatever. But I would like to, like I said, see more of that stuff just out in the open. None of these scare actors are really, honestly, all that scary. All right, let's go ahead and move to the next zone in the shadows. Here, eerie legends and cryptid creatures passed down through centuries of ghost stories have gathered in the woods, turning wary skeptics into doomed believers. Now, I thought this zone was pretty fun. They did use a lot of the sort of black cardboard cutout type effects all throughout the walk here. You'll see them off on the sides. I remember walking through during the daytime, though, and there's so many more that you just don't see here because they weren't lit up and you couldn't see them. Not really sure what the wandering things are supposed to be. I figured out, kind of realized after the fact, that some of them are in fact supposed to be shadows, so they're kind of dressed in black and then they will walk up and follow you. I thought that was kind of a fun effect, kind of eerie, and just again, fun. This guy, not really sure what he's supposed to be. He was kind of scary. And then here's some sort of weird moth creature. I didn't even notice it the first time I went through it. Tom had to be like, oh, did you see that? Let me go light it up with my flashlight. The other walkthrough here is Witch of the Woods. This one also is a bit hard to see. This is actually a haunted house, though, and it is listed as something wicked this way haunts. An ominous legend summons you with her inescapable curse. Curiosity has brought many travelers into this dark forest, but only bone-chilling stories and dying screams make their way out. This is the best scene here in the whole place, and it's kind of a rehash of the exact scene we saw last year. That's kind of a good jump scare there. They did Witch of the Woods last year also. I think it was more of a walk through in a wooded area. I can't quite remember, but I don't think it was in the same area here, which was more of, I don't remember, some sort of, I want to say like ninja type theme going on, and you kind of get that with the witches this year. Anyway, not really sure I understood the entire story behind this. The witches are drawing you in so they could chop you up and eat you or something. Don't really understand it. A lot of the scares here are people hiding in the shadows, jumping out and screaming at you. And I think they are legitimate screaming with their voices, not like Halloween Horror Nights where they have a pre-recorded sound effect. So I have to wonder, as the night goes on, how much that's going to diminish. Alright, let's go ahead and see our first show of the evening. This is called 50-50 Choose Your Fate. No matter your choice, he wins and you lose. Join the game show host as he decides your fate and experience the fright of a lifetime. So this show was kind of cute, kind of campy. It only lasted 10 minutes, so the theater is not very large. You're lucky to get a seat for those 10 minutes that you're going to sit there. Alright, the last scare zone of the evening is the Junkyard. This, I think I've seen the last couple of years I've been there. It's tradition, I suppose, at this point. They've brought it back. Let's go ahead and take a look. And honestly, the entire walkthrough kind of looks almost the same as every other year we've seen it. Not that you'd really notice some of the junk having moved around. But let's go ahead and read the description while we're taking a view. And it says, you'll find more than spare parts as you rummage through this sorely scrapped site. Will you make it out in one piece or be devoured by the haunted rubble? I have heard that there are a lot of Easter eggs in this area from other scare zones of the past or haunted houses of the past, which is honestly a good idea, a good place to get rid of some of those props. And right here, even though you can actually see what I'm looking at, this is a very fog-heavy zone as well. I've sometimes found myself literally unable to see where I was walking in front of me. This you can barely see as well in the back, kind of one of those sort of claw things that, you know, I'm not really sure what it's supposed to do or what I'm really supposed to be looking at, but they did put a lot of effort into that effect. Some of the characters in here too were very creepy and they were very animated, and I did appreciate that at least. Alright, our last haunted house of the evening is Deathwater Bayou, Blood Moon, the final phase. The werewolves are clawing their way back in, and the blood moon is in its final phase. Beware all who enter the inescapable fate of the Deathwater Bayou. So this is returning this year in, I guess, a different form. It's got werewolves in it this year. The best thing this house has, however, is these vortex tunnels. There were 2 of them, so you aren't all crowded together in one line here, and you could actually take your time and enjoy it, because I love that disorienting effect. It is awesome. And everything about this house was kind of fun. It's hard to see in this room, but you've got the werewolf statues again from the werewolf zone a few years back, and then this whole area here is kind of like a cemetery. It's very hard to see, but it was amazing detail. The effects were well done. I can understand how they need to shake things up. If they bring back a haunted house, they can't make it exactly the same as before. But the werewolves are a little strange in this. Here is one just as the final scare. He was actually just more like a creepy guy with his camper there, like, hey, can you spare some change? Anyway, let's go to the final show. This is the Fiends show, and I think it was an amazing job as usual. It's the same campy fun that they put on every year. They change it up, of course, but it's the same Frankenstein and Igor and Dracula and the Mummy and the Werewolf. And they all dance around with their delightful backup dancers. They did have 2 shows. This was the later show that I think started at 11, and that was the last thing we did for the night. It got out at 11:30, and we were back in the car by midnight. So we did manage to see everything without the express pass. Last year we did do the VIP tour. It did get us through everything a little bit quicker, but we did on this trip manage to do everything else anyway. So that'll do it for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. Till next time, take care and happy haunting.